Good evening and welcome to NTV Weekend Edition. It is the end of a weekend, but the start of a fresh week. Let's look at how the news has shaped up over the day. Politicians brawl in church. Jubilee Party faction legislators clash in Murang'a.
Inakamada hata kuja kupiganisha watu wa Kiharu.
Tungetaka serikali yaangalie hiyo.
Plus, medics at Kenyatta National Hospital to down their tools.
We are sorry that we may not be giving you the service after midnight.
And herders fighting their way out of Mara North Conservancy deal.
Tumepiganyanza kwa muda mrefu na si kama vijana hatupati any benefit kwa conservancy.
Also tonight, morans are now elders.
Wale warani wameoa rasmi watakalia ngosi.
NTV's Melita Oletenges takes us through his rite of passage.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Maasai.
Glad you chose NTV Weekend Edition. Flora Tieno is our sign language interpreter tonight. To our top story, and you've seen them behave badly in their chambers. At times, not only hurling insults, but chairs, and in some cases, exchanging not only words, but blows. Sadly, as evident at a funds drive at the Gitui Catholic Church earlier today, the Kieleweke and Tangatanga factions of the ruling Jubilee Party have reduced houses of worship into battlegrounds. The church no longer a place to find solace or common ground. Olive Burrows tells us why.
And God said unto Moses, take off your shoes, for the ground on which you stand is holy. Exodus 3:5. But not only did the Kiharu Member of Parliament, Ndindi Nyoro, and his nominated counterpart, Maina Kamanda, drag their dirty laundry into the house of the Lord on Sunday, they turned it into a marketplace. As the so-called Tangatanga and Kieleweke factions of the Jubilee Party have been doing for months. A desecration which so incensed the Son of God that he took a whip to those who showed no regard for the sanctity of his father's house. President Uhuru Kenyatta's self-appointed crusaders and Deputy President William Ruto's travel companions habitually turning the pulpit into a podium from which they preach not love but intolerance. The warring factions reached a new low when the exchange of words degenerated into a brawl in a clash of egos. Nyoro and Kamanda jostling for the microphone as they pointed accusatory fingers at each other for breaching protocol.
Haiwezekani unakuja Kiharu ati ni wewe unasema wewe DMP wa Kiharu.
Tumekataa. Kama isipokuwa panapo wazee husemekana hawafanyi nini? Hapa haribiki. Tukaona utoto kama huu. Sisi wacha tutulize baka tumalize.
The political class turning houses of worship into campaign rallies as the church leadership's silence is sometimes bought for 30 pieces of silver.
We have seen today that you do not even respect church. Na ukweli hapa ni siasa imeingia pahali haifai.
Olive Burrows, NTV.
Just shameful. And from the chaos in church to the disarray over a possible referendum, Deputy President William Ruto says the incessant calls for a constitutional change by ODM leader Raila Odinga should not derail the country's more important needs of development. His allies, who have been on a campaign against the Building Bridges initiative, were also drilling down the same message.
Tuwache kusumbua wananchi wengi, tuwache kusumbuana na wananchi. Wananchi hawa wote, sijui Waturkana, mnaenda kuwasumbua tu bure. Sijui mnaenda Lamu, sijui mnakuja hapa Kirinyaga, sijui mnaenda wapi, ati kuuliza watu maswali. Wale watu wote hawana shida na katiba. Mtu mmoja tu iko na shida na katiba.
Siasa mingi ya kubadilisha katiba. Kuna wenye wanatuambia tupunguze nini? Mzigo. Nimesikia iko mzee amewatukana wakawaambia ni inaitwa punguza gunia. Ati tuachane na hiyo, tungoje ingine inaitwa BBI. Na sisi sababu ni watu waaminifu tunangoja hizo zote. But we want to say, even as we wait for all of them, we want changes to the constitution that will be beneficial to the people of Kenya.
Kwa hivyo hii maneno ya katiba iwekwe yote kwa meza kama buffet. Sisi wananchi wa Kenya tupewe nafasi tujadiliane. Na hii maneno ya kubadilisha katiba haitatufanya tukosane. Na si kwa lazima. Tukiona kwamba ile proposal wametoa haifai, tunasema wacha tufanye uchaguzi kwanza ya 2022, alafu turudi tena tuangalie mambo ya katiba.
A day after Deputy President William Ruto reached out to the ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi and asked for his support as he eyes a presidency in 2022, Mudavadi has declined his offer, saying he will not join forces with a party that had overburdened Kenyans with problems.
Wametuwekea mzigo ya madeni, alafu anasema niende huko. Ruto and Jubilee are the problem. Hao ndio wametuletea shida. Sasa wanasema I go and become part of the problem. No, ANC is going to provide the solution.
From politics to graft investigations, 3 more people have surrendered to police in Kisumu over the Lake Basin Development Authority mall scandal. You'll hear me refer to this as LBDA in this graphics that I'm about to show you. Former LBDA Managing Director, that is Peter Aguko, Nelson Ouma Onyango, a member of the Evaluations and Tender Committee, and Teresa Achieng Ochaka, former supplies officer, were among those taken to Nairobi for questioning. Now, 4 other suspects were also picked up by police yesterday and were brought to Nairobi, except former LBDA board member John Nyera Mango, who is said to be paralyzed and in need of special attention. He was allowed to present himself at the Integrity Center to do that tomorrow at 7:30, beg your pardon. Investigations show former Lake Basin Development Authority chiefs pocketed cash and received other benefits from a construction company in a scandal that saw the cost of building in Kisumu inflated by 2.5 billion shillings, or at least up to that figure, that is 2.5 billion shillings. We've just heard of the response from Mudavadi to the Deputy President. Well, as the 2 leaders were making and declining proposals for 2022 partnerships, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka was putting his best foot forward. He was asking the church to pray for him and his presidential ambitions.
Kama nimemwagiwa mafuta leo, sitaki kuharibu. Mbele ni sawa, ama sivyo? Mbele ni sawa, si sawa? Wangapi wanaamini 2022 iko sawa?
Now, away from the politics to something that hits home quite close for many. Meanwhile, a section of Narok residents had a violent brush with rangers manning the Mara North Conservancy as the dispute over use of what they say is community land roiled. The community says it's had a change of heart. The tourism venture was no longer profitable and now wanted to convert the land back to agricultural use. Sharon Baranga has more.
They had sounded the war cry, and the Mara North Conservancy will be the battleground. The community living near the conservancy was here to spell out their frustrations. A mission that saw them clash with the rangers manning the conservancy. The community wanted to opt out of a deal where they had given out their tracts of land for the conservancy. But now they say tourism was no longer profitable.
Imetunyanyasa kwa muda mrefu na si kama vijana hatupati any benefit kwa conservancy.
And with that, they drove their cattle inside the conservancy as they made good their threat to convert this land, teeming with an assortment of wildlife, to agricultural land. Jeff Koya, who owns 80 acres of land here, says he earns 11,000 shillings per month from tourism.
We have tried all resolution mechanism, but it has borne no fruit. Tunataka kuishi shamba zetu kwa sababu hatupati faida kabisa. wanakatalia percent yetu kabisa. Tulijaribu maelewano tukashindika kabisa mpaka ikabidi tutoe kampuni yetu ambayo inaitwa Kiambu landowners. Ndio tutoke na percent yetu ya ile mashamba ambayo yameweka kwa hiyo kampuni.
Na kesho tutalima hii mashamba yetu. Tufanye business nyingine zenye zitatusaidia. Maana conservancy tunajua importance of conservancy, but they are our value. So si kama vijana hatutaki hiyo.
The rangers were overpowered by the angry landowners who used crude weapons to send them scampering for safety.
Brokers nadanganya sisi pana kana kula mali yote na malisa yote.
The community claims that in previous years, the returns were much better than they are now. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Services at the Kenyatta National Hospital will be paralyzed starting midnight tonight as a 14-day strike notice issued over a salary increment dispute by the domestic hotels, education institutions and hospital workers lapsed. The workers who've threatened to down their tools and hit the picket lines claim only the hospital's chief executive officer has benefited from the salary increase. NTV's Brenda Wanga has more.
The expiry of the 14-day strike notice issued last month is set to plunge the Kenyatta National Hospital into a crisis at the stroke of midnight. The Kenya Union of Domestic, Hotel, Educational Institutions and Hospital Workers say the strike is overdue.
Awakening 9th. All employees of Kenyatta National Hospital, starting from all doctors, nurses, and any other paramedical officer in Kenyatta National Hospital, we are not working. We are laying our tools down.
The strike born out of a failure by the hospital and the Ministry of Health to implement salary and allowances hikes after KNH's category was bumped up from 3C to 7A.
Terms and conditions of workers in Kenyatta National Hospital, including for the CEO, were meant to be improved. Both from basic salary, house allowance, leave traveling allowance, telephone allowances, risk allowances. All these are the benefits of every worker who should have worked and who is working at the Kenyatta National Hospital.
The union claims that the ministry proposed a pay hike for all cadres. For instance, the lowest paid worker at KNH, according to the revised structure, would earn 17,500 shillings, while one in job group K8 would take home 67,000 shillings. The CEO of the institution would have their salary increased to 400,000 shillings. The union claims that this has been implemented selectively.
No one, and we say no one, has benefited other than the CEO of Kenyatta National Hospital. Our concerns are, is he the only worker in Kenyatta National Hospital?
The hospital had stated in 2012 that it was unable to fund the proposals and had sought the ministry's help in getting the money to pay the workers. It would have cost the hospital 2.07 billion shillings to have the basic salaries increased, 438 million shillings to effect the house allowance, and 39 million shillings to take care of the increased leave allowances. In total, the hospital needed 2.5 billion shillings to effect the pay changes in 3 phases. The union now says time has run out for the hospital's management and the consequences of the non-compliance will be felt where it hurts the most.
And we are sorry that we may not be giving you the service after midnight, but bear with us. It is also important that our issues are addressed.
The union says the only way to avert the strike would be for the hospital to commit to paying the dues before midnight today. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
ODM party settled on the late Ken Okoth's brother, Bernard Otieno Okoth, better known as Imran, as a candidate for the Kibra constituency by-election. And as Zainab Ismail reports, the daggers are already drawn and the race billed as a national heavyweights contest that will overshadow the actual battle at the constituency level.
The stage is set for the Kibra by-election contest after ODM settled on the man who will fly the party's flag come the 7th of November.
To the great people of Kibra, the battle is ahead of us. We must keep the legacy of the late Honorable Ken Okoth alive.
Bernard Okoth, the late MP Ken Okoth's brother, will now tough it out with Jubilee's McDonald Mariga, NC's Eliud Owalo and Ford Kenya's Hamisi Butichi.
Agenda yetu ni kufanya kazi ile Okoth aliwacha na tuhakikishe tumefanya kazi yote ile aliwacha ya education, na sisi wenyewe tutaingiza mambo ya sports ndani, tuongezee baadhi ya vitu zile tutasaidia our youth pia.
Najua zile shida tuko nazo hapa Kibra. Maneno ya moto ya ghafla, ukosefu ya water na sewerage, zile matatizo mko nazo kwa upande ya karo ya shule.
Observers say this election will provide an opportune moment for the big political parties to measure their strengths ahead of 2022. But the face-off between Jubilee's candidate McDonald Mariga and ODM's candidate Bernard Okoth will especially be one to watch. NC's Eliud Owalo is taking a second stab at the seat.
Owalo, mimi nataka kupitia kwake tuweke ODM kando, chini kwa uwanja, tuweke Jubilee chini kwa uwanja. Hayo ndio mimi nasema, na mimi nawaambia huyu jamaa tarehe 7 Novemba kufika saa 6 ya usiku ndio atatangazwa kuwa mjumbe wa Kibra.
For Odinga and his party, the by-election on November 7th is a do-or-die battle. If ODM loses this seat, it could signal his waning influence in the city politics and a DP's Ruto's ascendancy to the helm of his perceived stronghold. Raila, who represented the constituency for an uninterrupted 21 years between 1992 to 2013, enjoys near fanatical support, and with his eyes trained on the 2022 polls, whether he vies or not, this is a seat many say he cannot just afford to lose. A section of Jubilee members, on the other hand, want to exploit this chance to send a message to their presumed arch rivals ahead of 2022.
Leo nilikuwa nimekuja maneno ya masomo, lakini tutarudi kuongea hiyo ingine ama.
A win for the Ruto-led Jubilee faction will give the DP much needed sway as a formidable force ahead of 2022. ODM has lost 3 parliamentary seats so far, reducing the number of its elected MPs from 62 to 59. And at the heart of the contest is the battle for the control of the Nairobi County politics with a possible 2 million voters. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
From the Battle of Kibra to the fight over our environment, the operation to rescue the last swathes of trees that make up the Maasai Mara forest from human encroachment is now a week old. The area is now marked by officers on patrol and people packing up their belongings and moving out. This is where a number of rivers spring up, including the Mara River, where the reality of the destruction is more glaring downstream, as Bridget Sngana found out.
From this viewpoint, we get to appreciate the vastness of the Maasai Mara Game Reserve and the wildlife that brings scores of tourists to this corner south of the Rift Valley. From here, we spot the Sand River, a tributary of the Great Mara River. But just like the name suggests, only the sand on its withered bed can be seen as vultures circle around a carcass. Lately, the water levels of the Mara River and her tributaries have been on the decline.
In fact, by January, this river is dry completely. There will be no water here. And obviously, wild beasts and other wildlife species that inhabit this place will not be coming here because there is no water.
In the past, the great wildebeest migration, one of nature's wonders, would take more than 3 months. But now, this annual stampede has become unpredictable.
Kuizi unaona wanafuka, wanakuja hapa wanakaa mwezi moja, mwezi mbili wanarudi. Zamani walikuwa wanakuja wanaishi upande huu hata mwezi 6. Wanaishi hapa kwa sababu wanapata maji throughout.
The question is, how can we rescue the situation now? And the only way we can rescue the situation is by getting rid of the people in the forest and then beginning a very long painful process of rebuilding the forest, of restoring the forest.
The Mara River stretches 270 kilometers through Kenya into Tanzania, supporting the circle of life of millions of people and wildlife like the wildebeest. The operation to restore the source of the Mara has been deemed critical and necessary.
If we clear this forest, then we are done as a county. Hatutakuwa na maisha. So it is just a matter of life and death. We have to choose. We destroy the Maasai Mara forest, we suffer forever. It's going to be it's a serious disaster in waiting that we have to address.
As the Mara River continues on its course here at the Mara Triangle, there is a sense that the water levels are still not to the desired standards as it used to flow some years back. Ghana, NTV, Narok County.
Watching NTV Weekend Edition, we take a quick break, but coming up. After this short break, our reporter Melita Oletenges becomes an Ilchamus elder. You don't want to miss that. Stay with us.
Ukamwambia aje? Naye akakwambia aje? Na ulimjibu? Nani wanalia hapo nyuma? Ni mtoto. Usikate, mpatie simu. Hello, Junior. Okay. Patia mama simu.
Cheki usikate.
Usikate, ongea sana.
Usikate. Wakenya, happy na stories. Story bonus imerudi na madrama na mavideo. Ongea zaidi au ongeza bado kwa line yako. Ujipatie 200% story bonus plus 200 MB YouTube free kila siku. Witinesa. Ona lazima uone.
Usikate pata story bonus.
Nawe kila wakati.
The Aerial Assurance Challenge.
Asante sana. Sasa, ni nini kingine ambacho unaweza kufanyia msichana wetu?
Kila kitu. Hata kufua nguo na Aerial mpya.
Basi, tuonyeshe.
Hey, sasa fanya haya madoa yawe sugu zaidi. Sasa tufue kwa kutumia sabuni yako na kutumia Aerial mpya. Aerial sasa inapatikana kwenye pakiti mpya. Unaniamini sasa? Aerial huondoa madoa sugu kwa mwosho mmoja tu.
Wake up in the morning time to get it.
How do you re-energize?
You're gonna make it. Just take a sip.
How about a Yola?
Energy for this. Take a sip.
Available in 4 flavors, Yola is a cereal milk drink packed with vitamins and minerals that is suitable for all ages and guaranteed to give you a burst of energy in every sip. Yola, power up your day.
Just as you'd study for an exam, study up on the field that interests you and the position you hope to achieve. Knowing the ins and outs of your preferred career path will help you enter the job market with eyes wide open.
At Amboseli Institute of Hospitality and Technology, we take your future seriously. We produce highly skilled graduates in hospitality, tourism, fashion, and design. Think quality, think future, think Amboseli Institute. Enroll today.
When you sign up for autocorrect from Heritage Insurance, we will install a telematics device in your vehicle. You will also enjoy rewards by accumulating points for good driving. You can save up to 15% of your insurance premium. Autocorrect from Heritage. For more, SMS autocorrect to 22922 or visit autocorrect.heritageinsurance.co.ke.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Maasai.
Welcome back. A few cattle slaughtered, a gathering of families to create a grand ceremonial village. In an unabashed celebration of masculinity, the Ilchamus morans are passing through a vital graduation ceremony marked by ritual, song and dance. It comes once every 10 years and marks the end of life as an active
leader, otherwise known as Launu, that complements a pink cloth wrapped around our waists. A timely call is pronounced and is headed to by a selected group of morans, making our way into the cowshed of the leader of the Edset alongside elders of the community. The task here is to select a bull that will be slaughtered for the ceremony.
Na ndume huyu ambaye anachinjwa ni yule ambayo amefanyiwa castration. Sio tu ndume yule ambaye bado anapanda ng'ombe. Kwa sababu tayari hawa vijana sasa sio warani, sasa ni wale watu ambao wamekomaa, ndio sababu tunachukua yule ndume ambayo tayari amekuwa castrated. Na ni ndume ule ambaye lazima anapitia process mingi, anachaguliwa na wazee. Wanahakikisha ya kwamba yule ndume anachinjwa ni yule ambaye anaaminika katika jamii kulingana na mila yetu ya Ilchamus.
All are first blessed in a special ritual by our elders. A group of morans then pounce on the spotless bull selected for the ceremony, then feed it with the local brew. The bull is then pinned down, a daunting task, a show of might, exuding sweat and emotion.
This is the main ritual of the ceremonial Mongo Opoyeki Angitie as El Kirao Edset mark the end of Moranism. Now, this bull is suffocated to death. Its significance is so that it doesn't shed blood, so that the blood can be used for rituals later in the ceremony.
Traditionally, we would drink the blood as part of the rituals, but due to health concerns in present day, just some parts of the bull are used for rituals.
Baada ya kuchinjwa, kuna ngozi inabaki. Wanawake wetu wenye wameolewa rasmi wanakuja, wanaruhusiwa kuingia ndani ya boma na kuanika hiyo ngozi na kuweka miti. Hiyo miti tunakuja kuhesabu na kujua idadi ya wale wanawake wameolewa rasmi. Ule murani mwenye hajaoa rasmi, yeye baadaye jioni watakalia nyasi. Wale warani wameoa rasmi watakalia ngozi pamoja na watoto wake.
Meanwhile, jubilation rents the air as we celebrate the successful killing of the bull, which essentially marks the end of Moranism. The Mongo Opoyeki Angitie ceremony is one of its kind that requires all individuals of the Edset to attend, regardless of their status and education. As the first TV journalist from the Ilchamus community and among other professionals who have traveled from far and wide, we blend into our culture. Failure to attend the ceremony attracts a penalty.
Some ufike wapi, uende wilaya ama uende wapi, mila inabaki kuwa mila. Tuko na vijana hapa wengi Ilkirao ambao wengine wamesoma, wako na masters, wako na degree, lakini tukiitana tukiwa na sherehe kama hii, hata kama unafanya kwa ofisi gani, ni sheria yetu na ni mila yetu na itikadi. Ni lazima utoke mahali ulipo, hata kama uko nje, lakini unakuja kwa sababu ya hii sherehe, kwa sababu ni muhimu.
As we become new elders, we are anointed. But even as we pass over the mantle to the next generation of morans, we do so with strict instructions.
At least wachunge area na wawe security ya Ilchamus general in and out, wachunge walinde ng'ombe, walinde watoto na walinde ERD isiende hata nusu, kulingana kwa sababu sisi hatujaachilia hata ndama mmoja ipotee, kulingana na vile sisi tulikuwa warani wakati yetu. Hata nasi pia tunataka baada ya siku inakuja tuwapewa rasmi, vile sisi tumepewa rasmi tuwe wasi.
Due to changing times and the need to abolish unhealthy cultural practices and embrace education, the roles of the morans have been tailored to fit the current times. Moving on to elderhood, we the Kirao Edset will maintain our leadership system to old age. Launoni, our president, Loborunkene, our deputy president, and Longicha, the first man to be circumcised in our Edset. All the Edset members are required to obey the leadership at all times as they are chosen by the preceding Edsets.
It has made the community to have that order. It's like a structural way of passing information and also discipline. All these morans here, you can see the way they conduct themselves. It's all about discipline. It's also a way of passing some information and cultural experience to the other generation.
To mark the end of the ceremony, the morans dance the night away with their wives. The unmarried ones like me get an opportunity to mingle with single ladies of our age set. As we pave way for the next generation of initiates, and in celebrating this final rite, the new stage of life comes with responsibility and a promise of keeping the culture alive. Melita Oletenges, NTV.
Oh, congratulations to the first TV journalist from the Ilchamus community for being an elder. Only one thing missing, and he's mentioned it there. I'm not one to talk about someone's marital status on air, but he's mentioned it in his piece, Melita Tafuta Bibi. And just in case for the ladies, you want to be married to this Ilchamus man, the number is 0720 066. You can find him on Twitter or Instagram. Actually, the first communication I had with my wife was on Facebook. So, tafuta kijana Melita Oletenges on Instagram or Twitter. This young man, an elder now, would be happy to meet you, I am sure. You'll thank me later, my brother. Anyway, time for another break here on NTV Weekend Edition. Coming up, Pope Francis meets fellow Argentine priest who built a city of hope from the dumps. Details after the break.
The University of Nairobi is receiving applications for the September 2019 intake. Interested applicants should apply online at application.uonbi.ac.ke. Choose a course from its diverse market-driven and internationally recognized programs in undergraduate, postgraduate and fellowship programs in arts, business, economics, journalism and mass communication, law, education, project planning and management, computer science, medicine, among many others. For more detail, visit our website www.uonbi.ac.ke. The University of Nairobi, a world-class university committed to scholarly excellence.
Nation FM. More music and less talk. Nairobi 96.3, Mombasa 101.5, Meru 93.9, Nyeri 104.9, Eldoret 102.7 and Nakuru on 97.7. Follow us on social media on Facebook at Nation FM, Instagram at Nation FM and on Twitter at Nation FM KE. Nation FM. More music and less talk. Rough and tough quality textured coating gives your walls a tough and beautiful finish. Available in over 6,000 shades, it hides surface imperfections. Call us on 0709 887 000 to place your order. Crown. If you like it, crown it.
Who wants to answer? Mary?
Mary has a toothache.
Oh, I see. And who knows why?
Because her tooth is too big.
No, it might be a hole in her tooth called a cavity. That's why I brush twice a day using Colgate.
Imagine this is your tooth and these are food acids that cause cavities. Colgate with calcium and fluoride helps prevent cavities
for maximum cavity protection.
And now available in a 12-gram sachet for fresh breath. Only 15 shillings.
Welcome to Turkana University College. Turkana University is a center of research, innovation, and technological development for advancement of the society. The university is located in the vast resource-rich county of Turkana. We offer unique competency-based training in schools of sciences, business and economics, education, and TVET training. Apply now for our January, May, and September intakes for postgraduate degree and diploma certificate in the following programs: environmental sciences, business administration, environmental health, human evolution biology, renewable energy and technology, technology, education, development studies and social work, information technology, public administration and management, agriculture, early childhood development, ECDE, water technology, marine sciences, petroleum studies, among other courses. Turkana University, the cradle of knowledge.
Thank you for staying with NTV Weekend Edition. A meeting convened to discuss the construction of a 20 billion shillings water project in Kiambu was disrupted in Como sub-location Thika East after leaders and residents protested, claiming the matter was being handled secretly and had locked out key stakeholders affected in the project. The team of consultants who were sent to collect views on impact assessment on the Ndarugu 1 dam were chased away by their residents, who claimed that their area leaders were not aware of the meeting. The residents say they will not allow the project to take off until all their concerns, especially those on compensation, are addressed. The Ndarugu 1 dam aims to serve over 1.5 million people in Kiambu, Machakos, Kajiado and Nairobi counties. The project is being undertaken by the Tanathi Water Works Development Agency.
Wenye kupanga hiyo maneno, nasikia ni ministry ya water. Watajua maana ya kufuata procedure ya kufanya kazi ya serikali.
Hapa watu wamesoma. Hao sio Kimarel. Sisi watu wa kugojea tuje tuabiwe.
We have to strike a very good deal, especially about compensation.
Meanwhile, President Uhuru Kenyatta has announced that the first berth of the new Lamu port will be opened in October. The president, who expressed his satisfaction with the progress of the ongoing construction works at the seaport, said the mega project will create the much-needed jobs for Kenyan youth. The president further announced that plans are underway to start the construction of a crude oil pipeline from the Turkana oil fields to the new port. He asked workers to remain vigilant and to continue working closely with security agencies in averting terrorist threats. On the ongoing road projects in the region, the president said the intention is not only to enhance national connectivity, but also to attract investors to the new port and the region.
Kutoka Dubai mpaka South Africa. Hii ndio itakuwa ya kwanza, number 1. Haja yetu ya kuwa tunafanya kazi hii, hatuifanyi kwa lolote lingine isipokuwa kuhakikisha vijana wetu wa Kenya wameweza kupata nafasi ya kazi.
In news from around the world, Ethiopia invited members of the public to tour a notorious detention facility where high-profile political prisoners once endured.
Manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation.
Police are not taking anything to chance.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history.
Rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya.
The growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital.
It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation.
Police are not taking anything to chance.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history.
Rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya.
The growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital. It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation.
Police are not taking anything to chance.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history.
Rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya.
The growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital. It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation.
Police are not taking anything to chance.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history.
Rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya.
The growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital. It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys.
Ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka, Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Manze, I'm hungry.
Yes, with some extra fries. Delivery on the way.
So extra.
So extra.
Has to be extra because extra data is always better with extra minutes. Dial *544# to subscribe and share live extra. Telkom, moving with you.
Mama, how can I be a champion runner?
Well, you've got to be like a geisha ball. Staying strong and going so far.
Be strong and last long. Like geisha.
The University of Nairobi is receiving applications for the September 2019 intake. Interested applicants should apply online at application.uonbi.ac.ke. Choose a course from its diverse market-driven and internationally recognized programs in undergraduate, postgraduate and fellowship programs in arts, business, economics, journalism and mass communication, law, education, project planning and management, computer science, medicine, among many others. For more detail, visit our website www.uonbi.ac.ke. The University of Nairobi, a world-class university committed to scholarly excellence.
Welcome back, and we look at what we can expect in the week that's coming up. And this is something that we've mentioned. The Lake Basin Development Authority, or LBDA, mall in Kisumu will be making more headlines this week. This follows the arrest of the ex-LBDA MD, Peter Abok, and 6 other former agency officials, and they will be arraigned in Nairobi tomorrow over allegations that they inflated the cost of building the LBDA mall in Kisumu by 2.5 billion shillings. Something else that will be happening tomorrow. The Education Ministry is keen on curbing cheating early enough, well before final third-term exam starts. Education CS George Magoha will tomorrow be flagging off the pre-monitoring team for the national exams that start on October 21st. He will be in West Pokot, one of the 16 counties that are on the radar over cases of cheating in 2018. Now, something else to expect, of course, is the Waheshimiwas, or your MPs. They will be back in Parliament from recess, and a lot is on their in-tray as they resume this week. That will actually be Tuesday. Now, finally, something else to expect. Kajiado County will be hosting the second arid and semi-arid land, or ASAL, conference from Tuesday to Thursday at the Amboseli National Park. The conference aims to create a platform for prioritization and realigning of the ASAL's development agenda with the national development priorities. Now, entry to the park, you should probably note this, for these days of the conference will be free. Now, moving on to something we told you to expect, and here's some instant intel for you, and a disclaimer: if you don't want any nightmares with snakes, you may want
great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation,
Police are not taking anything to chance it.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history.
Rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya.
The growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital. It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs,
moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation,
Police are not taking anything to
show the common Kikuyu reference for grandparents. So go ahead, if you haven't already reached out to the grandparents in your life and appreciate them. I want to appreciate mine if they're watching. Of course, my grandparents and the grandparents to my daughter. And September 8th has also happened to be a pardon day. As you can see, an example that was set here on March 9th. A pardon day, as the name suggests, it is a day to seek and give forgiveness. On pardon day, you put aside all your grudges and be kind to everyone and forgive those who may have hurt you. If it's your boyfriend, if it's your girlfriend, just call them up and say, I'm sorry, and then move on into the new week. On the second Sunday in September, the National Pet Memorial Day is observed as well. It offers a moment to remember pets who have died. Now, this was established in 1972 by the International Association of Pet cemeteries. If you can notice, I'm getting a bit emotional remembering my dog Prince and Wafula, his dog Simba. He's right behind the camera there. It's time for sports now. This is what you can expect, of course, with, with the team that's coming up. Stay with us. Harambee Stars host neighbors Uganda Cranes at Kasarani. It's a thrilling game, but ended equal.
Where are we headed as a country?
Every time we make a step forward, we do two backwards.
Any fool with huge amounts of money can be president of this country. It is no longer about service.
Why can't we move these people out and find somebody who can make the right decision for the country?
You're the experts, you can tell me.
We have to change the way we arrive at our leaders. We have to.
Organized crime, terrorism, and corruption, they're really siblings.
We don't need 10 cases. We just need 2 cases done properly, and it will serve a lesson.
Justice can only be found if I prosecute what I have claimed, bring the evidence, and say this man is guilty.
AM Live, every weekday morning on NTV.
A very good Sunday evening to you. Hoping your weekend was good. It was a thrilling day at Kasarani, and that's what we're starting with, where Kenya and Uganda shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw in a friendly that was played at the Moi International Sports Complex. Well, a powerful display from Kenya in the second half gave many local fans hope that a possible Harambee Stars revival might happen under new coach Francis Kimanzi.
Fans in anticipation of the new-look Harambee Stars. It was Francis Kimanzi's first competitive task as new national team coach, and while Kenya seemed to find their footing, Uganda needed no time to settle into the game and went ahead in the 22nd minute, Egypt-based Emmanuel Okwi netting from close range. The Cranes, also under a new coach Abdallah Mubiru, would go into the break on a high. However, a renewed Harambee would come into the second half, all guns blazing, following changes by Kimanzi. Gor Mahia's Kenneth Muguna would equalize 6 minutes in with a perfectly timed pass from China-based Ayub Timbe. The game would ultimately end 1-1, with Kimanzi praising the performance from the new call-ups to the team.
Inachukua muda kidogo, lakini nafikiria kwanza walianza kidogo wakiwa wana ule uoga kidogo, kutojiamini. Nafikiria mechi ilikuwa inazidi kuendelea kidogo, wanaanza kupata ile believe, na hiyo ndio muhimu.
They are trying their level best to give whatever they can, and yes, they've tried against a good side, very competitive, with some little bit of experience, but they managed to hold on for a draw. Good performance and good result.
The Harambee Stars have 2 more friendlies lined up as part of their preparations for the upcoming 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. Next will be an away game versus Libya that shall be played in Morocco, then a home game against Mozambique.
To some athletics now, and 4-time World Half Marathon champion Jeffrey Kamworor will take part in the Copenhagen Half Marathon next weekend in Denmark. Well, Kamworor said the race will be used as preparation for the New York Marathon later this year, I do beg your pardon. The 2015 World Championship silver medalist made this announcement at the Kaptagat Forest Half Marathon, for which he is an ambassador. Daniel Kimboy and Joyce Chepkemoy are the men and women Marathon champions of the second edition of the half marathon that was held in Uasin Gishu County today. While the race was held under the theme Sports for Conservation, with the proceeds going towards conservation of Kaptagat Forest, which is part of the Cherangany Water Tower. Charles Leclerc survived an onslaught from Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas to win a thrilling Italian Grand Prix. Hamilton hassled Leclerc during a thrilling spell of action at Monza, but the young man
moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history,
rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya,
the growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital.
It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation.
Police are not taking anything to chance it.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history,
rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya,
the growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital.
It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation.
Police are not taking anything to chance it.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history,
rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya,
the growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital.
It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes
by
to
that Italian Grand Prix F1 race that Charles Leclerc won. Mark, it was quite intriguing, wasn't it?
Yeah, let's just say it was a learning process, even from the pronunciation there of Leclerc. I only know Hamilton and a handful others. But yes, for me, it's still a learning experience, and I'll be watching it with you and the team, Sheila Sendeo included, who will explain that it's not just about being the fastest. Thank you for that, Ida Oringa and the sports team. And thank you for watching NTV Weekend Edition. Thank you to Flora Tieno for the sign language interpretation. Have a great week getting into it tomorrow. My name is Mark Maasai. Good night.
This is NTV.
Think critically and approach questions, challenges, and setbacks